Hello students and welcome to this lecture explanation on material purchases budgets. As always, I like to start with a quote of inspiration, and this one is by Pope Paul. He said, "All of life demands a struggle. Those who are given everything become lazy, selfish, and insensitive to moral values. The hard work that we try to avoid is a major building block to the person we are intended to become." This is a great quote. I believe that we need to work hard. We need to deserve that success that we wish to achieve. And it's very true. If you don't have to work hard, you do become lazy, you do become selfish, and you are insensitive to those who have moral value for what they want to earn. And you no longer also respect the struggle of other people. So I think this is a very, very important and smart quote. As an introduction, I want to take you back to the very first introductory lecture on what management accounting is about. And in that lecture, we said that one of the main points of management accounting is that we are planning for the future of a business that produces its own inventory. So you produce a product and then you sell that product with the intention of generating revenue. In order to produce our own inventory, we said that we need three different types of things. We need direct material, we need direct labor, and we need overheads. In terms of overheads, we then explored the variable and fixed and mixed overheads, and you did some questions on high-low to split those. So now we are moving towards direct material. So direct material can be very expensive and it can greatly impact the cost of the product that you are producing. So it can greatly impact your finished goods. And the more expensive it is to produce you this inventory, and then you add a markup, this product is sold at a higher selling price as well. So it's kind of a snowball effect in that instance as well, which is dangerous in terms of, for example, the market competition, because they may be able to produce the product at a lower cost and then sell it at a lower cost to the consumer. So it is very important to plan for direct material purchases. So we need to have funding with our suppliers. We need to know in the next year, this is how much of the material we will have to buy. This is the cash flow that we will need. If we are negotiating with our suppliers, if we pay within an X amount of days, this is the discount that we are able to obtain. So it's very, very important for us to budget and keep track of our material purchases. In this segment of this or this study unit of management accounting level 1, you will be asked to set a material purchases budget. And there are basically two steps. You need to calculate in the first step the production units. And in the second step, you need to set the purchases budget as per the template. So I am going to share, I'll quickly show you. I have created a template. It looks like this. And I am going to share this template with you on Vutela. Right now, this template will not make sense at all. I do have a question later on in this set of slides, but this is the template that you need to go and find that I am going to share on Vutela. It looks like this. Very important. You will find there's step 1, calculating your production units, and step 2, actually drafting your material purchases budget. Getting back to the set of slides, again, the template is on Vutela, so please go and look for it. Something else that is very, very important in terms of doing calculations in this study unit is that you need to be able to do metric conversions. So in these questions, you need to divert materials the totals, the rollover totals of the materials to the largest possible metric. So you will have to take centimeters to meters, millimeters to meters, milliliters to liters, meters to kilometers, grams to kilograms. And I have set here for you the calculation that you have to do. So if you're going from centimeters to meters, you need to divide by 100. If you're going from millimeters to meters, you need to divide by 1,000. If you're going from milliliters to liters, you need to divide by 1,000. If you're going from grams to meters, I beg your pardon, to kilometers, you need to divide by 1,000. Going from grams to kilograms, you need to divide by 1,000. So this is a very, very important slide for you to study. This is a slide that you will continuously use going into second year, going into third year. So I suggest you already study it and make sure that you know it now, because you will need this for future reference. Again, right now, this does not make any sense. Sometimes it's very, very difficult to explain accounting. It sounds very abstract if you don't explain it at the hand of an example. So I have set an example here called XYZ Company. And they tell you that XYZ Company produces a single product, which is black pens. The entity is currently setting a budget for next year, which is ending on 31st December 2021. So this makes a lot of sense, because management accounting is futuristic. We worry about what will happen to this company in the future. And 31st December 2021 is our next financial year, which is coming up. So we are planning for the future. That makes sense, going back to planning, control, and all those elements that we spoke about in the first lecture. The sales units for the year ending 31st December is 20,000 black pens. The pens are produced from two materials, plastic and ink. A single pen uses 10 milliliters of ink and 30 square centimeters of plastic. Please forgive me, I don't know how to type on PowerPoint. I don't know how to type the little small 2 at the top. And that's what happens when you think you know things and then you discover really you don't know anything at all. So I've just been typing it as a 2. Please don't get confused. The 2 at the end is actually the square centimeter. So it's 30 square centimeters of plastic. Ink costs 250 Rand for a liter. Plastic costs 100 Rand for 1 square meter. So again, you will see now that the metrics differ. So we have milliliters versus liters for the price, that goes with the price. And we have square centimeters versus square meters, which also go with the price of plastic. As I mentioned earlier, we will convert it to the larger metric when we do the calculation. Then in the continued example, they provide you with stock levels. So the pens, of course, the pens will now be finished goods. So finished goods refer to the product that you make in order to sell. So it's basically your inventory that generates revenue. So, and then we also have two materials, the ink and the plastic. So for the pens, in the opening stock, there was 100 pens. In the closing stock, 170 pens. For the ink, there was 0.2 liters in the opening stock. In the closing stock, 0.12 liters. For the plastic, there was 2 square meters in the opening stock and 1.5 square meters in the closing stock. All right, so great. You might look at this question. You have not been faced with a question like this before. The first example is always the trickiest, and then you start understanding the patterns, and then it becomes relatively easy. So in the solution, I have now taken the template that I've shared with you and I've just put it on two separate slides. So you will find the step 1 is the production units. So I've taken this production unit step and I have put it on, if I can just ever click on the right things, and I have put it on this slide here as step 1. So here you take your sales units, you minus the opening stock of the finished goods, which is the opening stock of pens, and you add back the closing stock of pens. Now, I always get this question, ma'am, I do not understand. In the past, what we've done is we've added the opening stock, we've minus the closing stock, and now are you sure this isn't a mistake? Why are you telling me to do the opposite? No, this is not a statement that we are busy with. This is a calculation that we are busy with. So I am correct when I tell you you need to minus the opening stock, add back the closing stock. Let's talk about why. In step 1, we are trying to calculate the production units. In other words, let me just type it in here. Production units. In other words, we want to know of the finished goods, how many pens do we need to produce in the next year? So we argue as follows. We say We start with the sales units, and the sales units are always given in the question. We need to tell you, we estimate that we will sell so many pens. In this question, we have told you, let me just check, sorry, 20,000. We've told you that we will sell 20,000 pens. Then the opening stock of the pens is minus. Why is that? Because we are calculating production. If you have pens in the opening stock already, that constitutes pens that you will not produce because you already have them in your warehouse at the beginning of the year. You don't need to make them because they're already there. So you minus them because that's a portion that does not need to be manufactured. If I look at the example continued, they tell us that the opening stock is 100 pens. So I'm going back and I'm minusing 100. Then I need to add closing pens. Why am I adding the closing stock of the finished goods? Because that is the amount that I need to produce above and beyond the pens that I will sell. I add back the closing stock because I need to have an X amount of pens left in my warehouse as stock at the end of the period. So I cannot just sell everything that I have. I need to produce what I will sell plus a little bit more so that there's something left in the warehouse at the end of this budgetary term. In other words, I need to add a little bit more. I need to produce a little bit more so that there's a little bit left at the end of the year or at the end of the budgetary year. If we look at our summary, they've told us there should be 170 pens in closing stock, so I'm adding 170 pens. So unlike Excel, I don't have an automatic summer function now, so I am just making sure that I give you the right totals. And according to my calculator, you need to produce, in the next budgetary year, you need to produce 20,070 pens in order to make sure that you have a little bit left at the end of the year, that you are able to meet the demand in terms of sales units, and that you sell the pens that you already have in opening stock. Great stuff. We have now calculated our production units for the pens. In the next step, we need to go and calculate our materials. So we need two materials to make the pen, the black pens. We need ink and we need plastic. So it is interesting to see that when we answer this, and step 2 is now your material budget, your material purchase budget. Okay, I'm just going to make that a bit smaller, as you can see. Right, so we start with the answer from step 1. And the answer in step 1 was 20,070 pens that we needed to produce. And why do we use it for ink and plastic? Because we need enough plastic to make 20,070 pens, but we also need enough ink to produce 20,070 pens. The input per pen is in the next line item. So what does input mean? So input is some kind of metric, right? So if I talk about an input will be measured in a meter, a liter, a gram, a kilogram, a kilometer. So it is some kind of metric of this material that is needed to make one product, one pen. So what do we need for ink? If we go back to our example, it said that we need 10 milliliters of ink and we need 30 square meters of plastic to make one pen. So I'm going back and I'm filling that out. So we need 10 milliliters of ink and we need 30 square centimeters of plastic. In order to get to our total input, we need now to multiply because we need 10 milliliters per pen for 20,070 pens that we're going to produce, and we need 30 square centimeters of plastic for the per pen for 20,070 pens that we will produce. So we're going to multiply, and if I say 20,070 times 10, if my mathematics isn't too poor, it should give you 700. So 200,700 milliliters of ink. I'm also going to multiply the plastic, which is 20,070, and I'm going to multiply that by 30 square centimeters, and that will give me 600 into 100 square centimeters. In the next one, they say conversion of input. So now you need to convert the input. The rule is that we need to convert this input to the biggest metric in the question. And if I go back, the biggest metric of a question always goes with the price. So what was the price of ink? What was the price of the plastic? Ink was given as 250 Rand a liter. So we need to convert the ink to liters. And then we have plastic, which was 100 Rand per square meter. So we need to take the centimeters to meters. And in order to do that, you need to refer back to this metric conversion slide that I've given you here. So we have milliliters. We want to go to liters. How do I do that? Well, I have milliliters. I want to go to liters. So the conversion is I need to divide by 1,000. So I am going to do that. So here I am going to my memo and I'm going to say, I now need to say 20,700 milliliters divided by 1,000. And if you do that, that answer should be 200,7 liters. 200,700 divided by 1,000 to get to liters. For the plastic, we need to go from centimeters to square meters. So if I look at my conversion table, I'm going from centimeters to meters. In other words, I need to divide by 100, and I'm going to do that. So going back to my answer, I'm going to say it's the 602 100. I need to divide by 100. In other words, I'm going to need 602,1. I think. Let me just check. 602 100 divided by 100. No, I beg your pardon. 6,021. That is how many square meters I am going to need. Right. Then I'm going to my opening stock. The opening stock I need to minus. I'm going back to the stock levels, and the opening stock in the question of ink was given to me as 0,2 liters, and the closing stock was 0,12 liters. So I'm filling that out. So this is going to be minus 0,2, and I'm going to add plus 0,12. For the plastic, I'm also going back to the question. For plastic, I have 2 square meters and 1,5 square meters in the closing stock. So I'm going to say minus 2, add back 1,5 square meters. To get to the input to purchase, I need to take my answer in the conversion. So I need to take this 200,7. I'm just going to highlight that one for you. And then I need to minus the opening stock, add back the closing stock. So if I do that, I take the 200.7, I minus 0,2, and I add 0,21, I get that I need to purchase 200.62 liters of ink. If I need to calculate the input to purchase, in other words, the square meters to purchase of the plastic, then I need to start again with my answer in the conversion. And that is going to be 6,021. I'm going to minus 2 square meters in opening stock, add back 1,5 meters in closing stock, and I need to buy 6,020.5 square meters of plastic. The price per input is now the price per liter of ink and the price per square meter of plastic. So if we look at the price, they say the ink is 250 Rand for a litre. So I'm going to fill that out. The price is 250 Rand. What for the plastic? What is the price of the plastic? Again, you need to be told this. There's no way to calculate a price. You know, they need to tell you what is the going rate that they are using. And they say it is 100 Rand per square meter. So I'm filling it in 100 Rand. To get to the total purchases, I now need to multiply this input answer that I have there. Again, I'm just going to highlight it for you. And I need to times it by the price. So I'm going to say 200.62 liters times 250, and that gives me 50,155 Rand of purchases of ink. For my plastic, I'm going to use that as my starting point, the input to purchase, so that's 6,020.5 square meters at 100. So if I do that calculation, I need to pay 602,050 Rand. Ta-da! That is how you do a material purchase budget. So it is not hard. The rule is you need to stick to the template. If you're not going to use the template, you will be very confused. And the second most important point is that you need to go and study this conversion table. If you do not know this conversion table, you are going to be in trouble and you are going to struggle with the portion where you need to convert your inputs into the larger metric. You will not be able to do that. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. I am going to upload video explanations for 2 questions relating to the material purchase budget. So be sure to check those questions out. They will definitely help you in developing your understanding. Of course, it's always hard when you see the first question. It may not make a lot of sense. So the more we practice, the better we get at something. So be sure to watch those 2 videos. They will really contribute to you also establishing a good understanding. As always, I'm going to say I have left all the contact details on Vutela. So if you have any other further questions, please check that out and contact the lecturers if you are having trouble with understanding anything that has been said in this material purchase budget lecture. All right, keep well until I see you then in question 1.